Well, at PMQs today, Keir Starmer got a bit of a battering for rowing back on his pledge to scrap tuition fees. Are you comfortable with that?
Yeah, I don't think that was the PMQs I watched. There were some very robust exchanges, particularly on house building, that I think clearly the Prime Minister seems to be on exceptionally shaky ground on. Keir's made his case, as he has recently with his 5 missions, and I think we're on very comfortable territory in terms of the respective visions being set out for the country.
I just want to go through what Keir Starmer said when he was running to be Labour leader. This is to Andrew Neil. He said, "We remain committed to scrapping tuition fees. They're all pledges, so the answer to that question is yes." And then he was asked, so universities' tuition fees being scrapped will be in a Starmer manifesto. And he said yes.
As you know, Sophie, that took place in the spring 2019. Since then, we've had 2 years of a global pandemic. We've had war on the continent of Europe. We've had the Tories crash the economy. So the equation is slightly different. Keir is committed, as you've seen through our missions, to remove the barriers to opportunity, and funding and education is one of them. We're very, very clear that the system is unfair and needs to be changed. But we will make, and as you know, we're making those preparations ahead of a general election. We will make a very strong offer about making a much fairer system than we have at the moment, and one that crucially balances that need with the nation's finances. I think that's what the public would expect a responsible Labour Party to do, and that's what Keir Starmer's offering.
Look, I accept that it was made a few years ago and the world's changed since then, as you say. But I guess the problem is the world could change again, right? How do we know that what you guys are saying now is going to actually happen if Labour get elected? There's a trust issue.
Now, what you'll get from us is a fully costed, well set out manifesto when the election, is on its way. So, of course, there can be changes even within an election campaign, but in that moment, you'll have a very clear sense of what we want to do for this country. I think that's the responsible way to do it. We know that people want to see from Labour not a laundry list of all the things that we want to do for the country. Of course, there are lots of things. We tried that election in 2019 and the public were very clear about how they felt about that. Instead, what we'll have is a clear, fully costed, affordable, impactful and progressive manifesto that will change Britain for the better, ending the sticking plaster politics we've seen of recent years, but real change in the country through proper mission and driven based ways, cutting crime, improving public services and creating better opportunities. That's what the public will get from us, and they'll be able to make that judgment based on that.
Right, let's talk about the local elections, shall we? Because things are really hotting up in that race. Keir Starmer told me on Sunday that the Conservatives should be making gains in these sets of local elections. Now, I've heard of expectation management. But that's not really realistic, is it?
How could it be anything else, Sophie? Let's read back to when the equivalent elections were last fought, which was May 2019. After that, results were so bad for the Conservative Party that shortly after Theresa May resigned, we can't honestly be saying that Rishi Sunak's not going to do better and indeed might even do worse, as the Tories are saying, than that. Well, what would that say about this, the Sunak surge we've been hearing about? So, if Rishi really is the answer, and despite being, second choice of Tory MPs, second choice of Tory members, if he really is the right man to lead this country, well, surely he'll be making significant progress on where Theresa May finished.
Sunak surge, I'm not sure if I've heard that one before. Also, the whole thing is, though, that the projections that we're looking at are because the Conservatives are in a position where they should lose seats, because you just have to look at the polls and Labour clawing their way back from one of your worst ever election defeats. That's where we are, not to mention the fact that they're also defending the most number of councils and council seats as well. Let's get real, they're not going to be making gains.
Well, as I say, if they're not making gains, what does that say about where they are? It says that where Theresa May finished, which is considered, I certainly think Boris Johnson and his supporters would say, a real nadir for the Conservative Party. If they're doing worse than that, I think has real questions about where they are. Obviously, we're, of course, focusing on our campaign. We fought a really positive one around the cost of living, around improving public services. So we're hoping that our candidates are going to do really well.
What would be a good night for Labour then? What are you hoping for?
Well, we are really optimistic. We're looking to gain seats. I think the thing for me is particularly the where rather than the what. If we're going to read this with an eye on the next general election, which of course naturally we're all going to be doing that, then we will be looking at the places that we need to do well in order to win power and win the next general election. So we'll be looking to see if we've gained seats in places like that. I look out the window and about 30 metres away is the Red Wall. So of course we'll be looking at places like Broxtowe and Gedling and beyond, and Nottinghamshire and into Derbyshire. So we'll be looking at those and hoping we're showing that we're making the impact there that we want to be doing.
I mean, that's the point, isn't it? If you are going to be using these local elections to map over across to the general election, you need to be doing more than picking up a few seats. If you're going to seriously show that you're a government in waiting, you need to be picking up hundreds of seats.
Well, as I say, I think the top line number can be a fooler. So, take Nottingham, for example. We currently have 50 out of 55 councillors. I very much hope on Friday we get up to 55. We fought for all of those seats. And if that happens, well, we'll have gained 5 and the Tories will have lost 2. So a change of 7 seats, well, that sounds like quite a lot. I don't think it would tell us any more about the general election. We already hold 3 parliamentary seats in this city. So, as I say, I don't think it's that global number. I think it's the where. And I think we'll soon be able to look at those areas and to make that judgment as to whether we're making the progress we want to be making.
Just finally, I've done a bit of door knocking in my time, going alongside Labour and Conservative and Lib Dems, I should say, rather than campaigning actually for a political party. And I have to say, you do see some quite strange things on the campaign trail. I've seen quite a few naked people for a start. What's the weirdest thing you've seen on the campaign trail?
Yeah, I'm going to leave aside all nudity ones because, though I think they were common for most canvassers. Mine's a parrot. There's a picture doing the rounds of me in 2017 of me having a very detailed discussion with the parrot. I didn't get the parrot support. I think I got the owners on that day. But yeah, I think that's the most memorable one I've had.
That is a good one, definitely. Thanks very much for being on the programme today. Thank you.